The conversations we have on this show really get me thinking. And when I want to dive deeper or level up, I want to hear from the best. Luckily, I can do just that with Masterclass. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. Masterclass is the only streaming platform where you can learn and grow with over 200 of the world's best. For just $10 a month, an annual membership with Masterclass gets you unlimited access to every instructor. And you can access Masterclass on your phone, computer, smart TV, or even audio mode. Use improv to overcome your fears with Amy Poehler, or turn your passion into achievements with cultural icon Martha Stewart. And the classes really make a difference. 88% of members feel that Masterclass has made a positive impact on their life. I watched the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix, and I just wanted more and more Martha Stewart. Masterclass had me covered. Martha's Masterclass will teach you how to think outside the box and level up. I loved it. Masterclass is offering an exclusive offer for Ratchet and Respectable listeners at masterclass.com/ratchet. Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/ratchet. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/ratchet. Masterclass.com/ratchet. The conversations we have on this show really get me thinking. And when I want to dive deeper or level up, I want to hear from the best. Luckily, I can do just that with Masterclass. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. Masterclass is the only streaming platform where you can learn and grow with over 200 of the world's best. For just $10 a month, an annual membership with Masterclass gets you unlimited access to every instructor. And you can access Masterclass on your phone, computer, smart TV, or even audio mode. Use improv to overcome your fears with Amy Poehler, or turn your passion into achievements with cultural icon Martha Stewart. And the classes really make a difference. 88% of members feel that Masterclass has made a positive impact on their life. I watched the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix, and I just wanted more and more Martha Stewart. Masterclass had me covered. Martha's Masterclass will teach you how to think outside the box and level up. I loved it. Masterclass is offering an exclusive offer for Ratchet and Respectable listeners at masterclass.com/ratchet. Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/ratchet. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/ratchet. Masterclass.com/ratchet.
This episode is brought to you by Companion. Iris and Josh seem like the perfect match, but when a weekend getaway turns into a nightmare, Iris realizes that things aren't as perfect as they appear. From the creators of Barbarian and the studio that brought you The Notebook comes a twisted tale of modern romance and the sweet satisfaction of revenge. Companion, only in theaters January 31st. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable. Still in Belize. My original flight was supposed to have left yesterday. I technically have a new flight and an exit date. I may or may not get on that flight. I don't know. I love it here. Belize is not at all what I was expecting. I was expecting beaches with big puffy sand, and maybe they have that in some other part of the country, but where I am, no. And I thought for 4 days I would lay around on a beach chair or in a cabana, and I would drink well and eat well. And that's really what I came here to do. I got maybe a day of that. The first day I was here, the weather was hot and sunny and lovely. All the other days, not so much. Actually, no, I got 2 days of that. Every day after that, it has rained or drizzled. Nothing too intense. Well, at least during the day. Nighttime is different. Although I'm staying in this like wood cabana situation, the rain hitting the roof is magnificent. I sleep like a baby, but it could be light drizzle outside. I don't know. I don't be in it. But the weather has been overcast. It's been rainy. So it's altered the shape of my vacation. I'm obviously not laying on a beach. Still mad tan, like despite no sun. That said, it's turned into not what I wanted, but what I needed. I'm in San Pedro. It's big enough that I can tell you which island I'm on, and it's not a safety threat. I get up every morning, and instead of heading to the beach, I find a new place to have coffee. And then I'm reading this really excellent book. It's about to be our unofficial official book club pick. I'll tell you what that is later in the episode. But I get up and I go find coffee and breakfast, and then I drive a golf cart because there's not that many cars on the island. I go find my coffee and I find my breakfast, and then I read until I get hungry again. And then I go find lunch/happy hour, which is all the same thing here. I found this 2-for-1 happy hour that goes from 2 to 4 p.m. And I was like, I don't understand your life choices, but I'm going to choose them with you while I'm here. And then I continue to read this book, and then I go somewhere in search of dinner. I've done research on all the restaurants and such near where I'm staying. So I have a list of places where I want to go. And I set a goal every morning for what I think I want to eat for the day. So I don't go crazy because there's a lot of good food here. Yesterday I woke up and was like, today I will have a lobster. And so I had a lobster for dinner. And then this morning I woke up and I was like, I want a fried fish. I want a whole fried fish. So that's the plan for the day. Coffee by the water, and then lunch, some restaurant by the water, overlooking the water, whatever, as long as there's water involved. And then, for dinner, I think the place I'm going to go to, though, it's not on the water. I mean, I'm on an island, so it's all near the water, but I won't be able to see the water from dinner. But yeah, I found a place where I'm going to have a fried fish, a whole fried fish. It's Friday. It's biblical. Well, it's Catholic. Even though I'm not Catholic. I went to Catholic school. None of that is the point. None of that is the point. But yeah, Belize is lovely. There's a bunch of other things that I wanted to do. There's another island nearby that I would love to go visit, but the weather's not great. I have to take a boat to get to the other island, obviously. I don't want to go over there and be stuck over there in bad weather. I don't know what exactly the rain is going to do. Tomorrow's supposed to be less rain. Cloudy. I can live with cloudy. I just want to be stuck outside in rain. Loving it, even in the rain. It's one of those, I wouldn't necessarily say the rain is a lemon, but I've made lemonade and added tequila. So it's all working out. Oh, do you remember, hopefully you're a regular podcast listener, because this is not technically a serial podcast, but kind of it is. 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, when I first moved to South Africa, the first time when I was living in Johannesburg, and it had really bad load shedding. The power was out for 8 to 12 hours every day, and it was driving me up a wall. And I was working in a writer's room, my first writer's room, my only writer's room. It's not the point. But I was working on this TV show every night from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. because they operated on West Coast time, and I was 10 hours ahead. So everybody else is starting their day or in the middle of their day if they're on the East Coast. And I'm wrapping up the day like it's literally the middle of the night for me. But I couldn't tell you what the writer's room was. The show just came out and my name is in the credits. So now I can say something. It was Harlem, season 3. 2 years ago, January 25th, I had to go back and find the text message. Tracy Oliver, creator of Harlem, probably best known to everybody as the creator of Girls Trip, her. She sent me a text one day. She was like, hey, we're starting the writer's room. Do you want to come on as a consultant for the show? And I was like, yes, of course. And I started in the writer's room while I was living in Johannesburg. But season 3 just dropped. This is not an ad. This is some, ish I worked on so I can talk about it. Finally, I've literally held that secret for 2 freaking years. It came out on Thursday. I was refreshing the site. Midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., I finally went to bed. But I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning to see the new episodes. I haven't seen any of the show. When it was shooting in New York, I want to say late summer, maybe, because the EP hit me and was like, where are you? Are you in the country? Because we're shooting, you should come up. I was in the country, but I think I was on my way out. Even if I was, though, I hadn't seen the final product. I could have called over to Amazon and been like, hey, can you send me the screeners? I would like to see it. I just didn't. I want to watch it roll out like everyone else. And to be quite honest, the show came out, when I got up, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. Between 5 o'clock and maybe 9 o'clock in the morning, it's only 2 episodes. They didn't drop the whole season. I watched each episode at least 3 times. I'm saying this and not just because I worked on it. I think it's the best season. I know I'm biased. I know I am. But the first 2 episodes are really, really, really good. They're smart and they're funny and there's a lot of drama and it's great alley-ooping for where the story is going later in the season. I am super, super proud to have worked on this project. I love the show. I love the characters. I love Tracy Oliver. And just to work on this show was really, really good. I was up every night from 9 to 2 a.m. for months. So social life, at least in the evening, out the window. And it was very much worth the sacrifice. I'm really, really grateful I had the opportunity to work on the show. And then also, like, I just learned a lot. Like, it's my first writer's room. If you've been following the podcast for a really long time, like, you remember when I moved to LA, and you remember when I went back to school, when I went to writing school to start taking classes to learn how to not so much know how to write, but how to structure for TV. So to take it from the theory that you learn in school and then actually apply it and then fuck around and find out, like, and be good at it. Not to be humble or anything, but yeah, it was really, really dope. So I'm really excited. I am recapping the episodes. The first one is going to go up on Monday. I think I'll do it on social media and on here. I personally prefer to just read the recaps on social media. There's a whole subsection of people that are like, can you do it on the podcast? Like, I want to hear you talk about it. I don't want to read you talk about it. Like, I'm like, but you already read it, because they say this on social. And they're like, yeah, I know. But like, can you talk about it on the podcast too? Yes, we'll do that. I mean, I have an obvious investment in this show winning, even though it's the last season, unfortunately, which I was like, whose great idea was that? Like, y'all don't see these characters? Y'all don't see how beloved this show is? Seriously? But no, I'm really proud of my work there. I'm really proud of everyone who worked on the show. Like, it's really, really, really good. And I feel like in this season, too, I feel like the characters really stepped into themselves. I don't know if you had a chance to see the new episodes yet. I won't give you any major spoilers. I just want to say this one thing. Quinn, for the first 2 seasons, was probably my least favorite character on the show. She drove me up a wall. She just whiny and annoying and desperate to be loved. And it just, people like that drive me insane in real life, too. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be loved, of course. It's like the desperation. This season, she has found herself, and it's really beautiful to watch. And she's probably my favorite character right now. So if you haven't seen the episodes, first one and second one are on Amazon already. Please give them a watch. I'll post about it on my social media pages on Monday. By social media pages, let me clarify. Instagram and both Facebook pages, I'm operating again. I'll post the written recap there. And then on Tuesday's episode, we can do the recap of the episodes, number 1 and number 2. Does that work? Not like you can respond and I can hear you. DM me, like, expeditiously if it doesn't work. There's a lot that I'm leaving behind in the new year, but one thing I will never leave behind is my Lumi deodorant. I'm definitely bringing that with me into 2025. I love that Lumi is a whole body deodorant that's safe to use anywhere on your body. Pits, underboobs, thigh folds, belly buttons, and more. It was created by an OBGYN who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. I still suggest a shower at least once every 24 hours, but I must inform you that Lumi is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours, should you so need it. All Lumi products are baking soda free and paraben free, and they are pH balanced for safe use below the waist. Lumi comes in amazing scents. There's clean tangerine, lavender sage, my personal favorite, and also toasted coconut. Lumi Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get 15% off all Lumi products with our exclusive code. And if you combine the 15% off with the already discounted starter pack, that equals over 40% off their starter pack. Use code RATCHET15 for 15% off your first purchase at lumideodorant.com. That's code RATCHET15 at LUMEDEODORANT.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Lumi. Going online without ExpressVPN is like driving without car insurance. You might be a great driver, but with all the crazy people on the road these days, why would you take that risk? Every time you connect to an unencrypted network in cafes, hotels, airports, your online data is not secure. Any hacker on the same network can gain access and steal your passwords, bank logins, credit card details, and more. It doesn't take much technical knowledge to hack someone. Just some cheap hardware and a smart 12-year-old could do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per person selling personal info on the dark web. ExpressVPN is super secure. It would take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past ExpressVPN's encryption. And what I love about ExpressVPN is it works on all devices. I have it on my phone, my laptop, my tablets, and more. ExpressVPN makes sure I stay secure on the go. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/ratchet. That's expressvpn.com/ratchet. And you can get an extra 4 months free. expressvpn.com/ratchet. While I've been traveling around Belize, I have been reading this book. It's called King. It's by Jonathan E.I.G. Is it Eig? Eig? Egg? Hold on, because it's going to drive me up the wall. Eig is how we pronounce his last name. I had to go look it up. I was in Barnes & Noble doing research for the See Some World coffee table book. I think I mentioned that to y'all before. I was trying to figure out sizes of books and, just what else is on the market. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If there's someone who's done something similar or exact to what I'm trying to do, I want to do something else. But just to see what's out there and then also what's the void. I've made a living in multiple careers of figuring out how to fill voids. So I'm leaving Barnes & Noble and I'm just sometimes you just, I don't know, just in the mood to read. I don't know if other people get that itch, but I have it. So I was just looking around to see, what's on the shelves. And I saw this book, this massive tome. It's like 650 pages. It's a huge book. It's a biography of Martin Luther King. I read the first literal page of the book and was like, whoa, for the love of me, I cannot figure out why this book was 50% off at Barnes & Noble. It was a New York Times bestsellers list, but it also, I found out after I purchased it, was on Barack Obama's book reads list. I want to say for 2024. I know you might be thinking why a King biography? His birthday rolls around every year. There's 50 million books about King. Why this one? Why now? So this book, I like the opening paragraph. That's how I ended up picking up that book on Nelson and Winnie Mandela's marriage. And that turned out to be a good pick. That's also how I ended up picking the book remember Sheila Johnson's book? I can't remember the title of it off the top of my head, but we talked about that book for a full month. That was a good ass book. That's how I picked that one. So I picked up this one and I started reading the first page. And before I knew it, I was on the 5th page. I was sold when I got to this portion. It says Martin Luther King Jr. has been the subject of excellent biographies and exhaustive scholarship. But even now, the literature remains incomplete. This book is based on thousands of recently released FBI documents and tens of thousands of other new items, including personal letters, business records, White House telephone recordings, oral histories, unaired television footage, and unpublished biographies and autobiographies of people close to King. Says this is the first biography to make use of thousands of pages of materials that belong to the man who served as SCLC's official historian, as well as the first to benefit from discovery of audio tapes recorded by Coretta King. Interesting, no Scott. Didn't pick that up when I read it the first time. But recorded by Coretta King in the months after her husband's death. And an unpublished memoir written by King's father. This book is also built on hundreds of interviews with people who knew King, including family members and close friends, many of them willing to speak more openly than ever thanks to the passage of time. So, liked what I read in the first paragraph, got to that part and was like, oh, okay, there's quote and unquote new news in the book, and I'm going to give it a whirl. I had no expectation of making this a book club pick. It was just something I was reading for my own personal enrichment. It is a fascinating read. Fascinating. I put it in my book bag when I was packing for Belize, and I didn't crack it open until I got here. And when I did, I could not put this book down. I have carried this 600 and some odd page book the hardcover version. I have carried it all over Belize. Like I put it in my little straw bag and take it to the beach. I put it in my little straw bag and I take it to coffee. It's always in my golf cart. I do not leave without it. And I've been here since last Saturday, almost a week, reading it very intensely and pretty nonstop. And I still have, what page am I on? 436. I read pretty fast in general. I'm scribbling in the margins. I'm underlining stuff. I've turned to the blank pages in the back and I've started scribbling notes and such in there. I cannot put this book down. King is, obviously a fascinating figure, a revered figure for now. We'll talk about that in a second. He's largely treated in America as this pacifist who just believed in loving everyone, this kind gentleman, this noble man, focused, intentional, fearless leader, moral man, minister, even pastor. And he is all of those things, but he's also scared and conflicted and depressed. And he's a drinker. He's a smoker. He's a womanizer. It's a different woman, at least in every area code. None of the big decisions on what to do came easy. Should I march? Should I not march? Should I go here? Should I do this? Should I do that? Doesn't like conflict, which I was like, sir, you protest, not even for a living. He did make money off the actual protest, the speaking engagements, which he gave all the money back. He never made, I shouldn't say that. He never kept a shit ton of money. He gave it all back to the movement. This book paints him as human in a way that, of course, he's a man. Of course, he's a mere mortal. Even if you're a smart person, you've really thought about this before, you know that you don't have to be perfect to be a leader. And yet still, we demand almost perfection from our leaders. I love that this book, and I didn't expect it when I started reading it to be so in parallel with what's going on politically in the U.S. It demystifies King, yes, but it also demystifies leadership. I think most people would think of Martin Luther King as a definitive leader, but also as a great leader. And, not but, as in to negate. And, like I said, he was fearful and he was scared and he had anxiety and he had depression. To the point that like he went to like check himself into the hospital and had to stay for days for quote and unquote exhaustion. But it was also anxiety and depression as well. Like he had a nervous tick. He had like constant hiccups at one point, anxiety. He was very afraid to die. And it wasn't just like in the sense that I think most people are afraid to die. Other leaders have been killed, a bunch of them. He was friends with Medgar Evers, who gets gunned down in his driveway. He wasn't friends with Malcolm X, but like they met, they knew who each other were. They followed each other's careers. It was impossible not to. And then, Malcolm gets killed while preaching. There's a constant stream of activists, and not even people who are known at a national level, people in the community who were like, you know what, I want to go register to vote. I got some balls or some huevos today, and I'm going to go register to vote. And then that person gets their house bombed, like Molotov cocktail through the front window or sticks of dynamite while you sleep in the bed. Like he was constantly afraid with good reason. He had a difficult relationship with his dad. He is proud of his son. He likes to gloat on his son. He likes the attention that comes to him as a result of his son. His father also is really, really overbearing and comes across almost like Joe Jackson. Part of the reason that Martin Luther King, of all people, has issues with conflict and direct confrontation, which I'm like, huh? He could stand up to mobs of angry white people, angry white police officers. He could go, back and forth with multiple U.S. presidents. His own daddy, not so much. It's interesting, but it's also oddly inspiring. Just the idea that like you could be a regular person to a degree, full of conflict, full of flaws, don't even like confrontation, but also be an amazing leader and change your country. I love that. The other thing that's very interesting about Martin Luther King, and this came up again with Nelson Mandela, and I imagine if I read any of the biographies, specifically not autobiographies, because people are really terrible at being objective about themselves. For instance, Malcolm X's biography never mentions that he got his teeth done and why. I think it's significant in that he had a degree of vanity and that also he was expecting to be seen and judged and wanting to look the part of leader. Martin Luther King was self-conscious about his weight to the point that he took weight loss pills while in jail. But I think if you look at the biographies of well-accomplished people, you'll see the intentional branding that started pretty early on in their careers. Martin Luther King is a junior, obviously, named after his father. For the first, decade or so of Martin Luther King's life, his name was Michael. His father, also a Michael, changed his name to Martin Luther after the German monk from the Protestant Reformation. His father, Daddy King, as he's referred to in the book, because that's what everybody called him, Daddy King runs away from home when he's 14. He gets to quote unquote the big city, Atlanta. Black folks been running off to Atlanta for reinvention for 100 years and more. We thought folks started doing that in the 90s, more like the 1890s. He runs off to Atlanta. He gets a job, blah, blah, blah. He decides he wants to be a minister. And so he very intentionally starts chasing after the daughter of this prominent minister. The book describes her, this is Martin's mama, as a pretty plain woman. She was smart. She was accomplished. She had the right daddy and the right pedigree. And that's why he was interested in her. And it was to help his own personal ambitions so that he could marry the right type of woman, to have the right type of job, to have the right type of kids. So they would be like the right type of Black family, which is great branding for a minister. Martin Luther King, before he even gets to high school, his father is already working on the branding and marketing. Father didn't just change his name. He wanted his son to still be a junior and then went ahead and changed his name too. Very un-Brian McKnight of him. Martin Luther King ends up doing the same thing. He loves the women. They talk in detail about how he crashed out about not being able to marry his first love, who was this white chick he met when he was in college. He wanted to be with her, but he'd already decided early on he wanted to be like this activist, this prominent guy. He wasn't really quite sure about the minister thing. He thought maybe a PhD and do it like Du Bois, something like that. He decides on the ministry not so long before he meets the white chick, but he wanted to be with her real bad. Like, he's like, we'll live in the North and we'll build a life and whatever. And then like when push came to shove, he was like, nah, I can't be this prominent Black minister married to this white chick. So I'm going to actually choose me over us. And like, I'm going to crash out over it. I really don't want to do it. But like, I'm going to choose the career over the woman. This book is fascinating. So I've been riding all over Belize with this book. I posted a picture the other day being like, hey, I'm in Belize. And I was like, I probably should have made this a book club pick. I wasn't even thinking about it because the book came out in 2023, I think. I figured if we do a book club pick, unofficial or otherwise, that it would be something new. And then also something by a Black woman, being as how, I'm Black woman. Audience is mostly Black women. It's so good. And then so many people in the comments were like, it's not too late to make it a book club pick. Like, this is a really good read. Like, and it's about King and let's just do it. So it's our unofficial book club pick. I'm obsessed with this book. I have not even finished this book. I've said it before. I think every year since 2021, as it was pointed out to me, I want to do a book club. This is not the official kickoff of it, but this is the book that I would like us to read during the month of February. I've reached out to the author for an interview. He's game. I'm trying to figure out some other interactive things for us to do. If nothing else, we can do a giant Zoom to discuss the book. If we can find a bookstore somewhere in the DMV that would like to host us, some of us, is way too many people to get in one space. That's an option that I'm open to exploring as well. If you have other ideas of how to make this book club work, we can work on that. So I will encourage you to pick up this book, King, by Jonathan Ayig. It is a massive tome. My goal is to have you finish it by the end of February. I know it's a big book. I know it's a lot to ask. It's a lot to read. If I did not love this book, if I did not feel personally enriched by this book, if it did not send my mind spinning and whirling in a bunch of different directions, I would not recommend this book. But it did. And that's why I want to talk about it in multiple ways, multiple times over the course of the next month. I'm going to ask the same thing of you for this book that I did when I was recommending The Rest Revolution. That was the book we talked about with Amanda Miller Littlejohn last episode, which if you didn't listen to that episode, go back and listen to that episode. That was another one of those reads that I found personally enriching. But I asked for that book that if you can support a Black-owned bookstore. I know it's so much easier to just go order the book off of, what's been our favorite delivery service for a very long time and have it delivered to you in 48 hours or less. That company is supporting a racist regime. I will also note, because cost saving is a thing for me and everybody else, I purchased the hardcover of this book. It was 50% off on Barnes & Noble. Obviously support the Black folks if you can, but if you want a budget or you need to be on a budget, the book is 50% off on Barnes & Noble. I will have more firm dates for you going forward. I'm just going to say now, buy the book, end of February. That's giving you more than a month to read. So hopefully you can get it done in that time. If we ever do an official book club, we'll do a more formal rollout. But this is what we got for King. And I love this book. So I'm excited. If you haven't noticed, it's winter. The days are getting shorter. It's cold. And now more than ever, I'm in need of a little treat. That's why I joined First Leaf, a wine club that delivers my favorite types of wine right to my door. Because there's really no better treat than a glass of delicious red wine. First Leaf gets to know your specific preferences, whether you like red, like me, white, sweet, or dry. So in every shipment, you get to unbox a new selection of bottles you're guaranteed to love, which is half of the fun. To get started, all you have to do is answer a few quick questions about what you like to drink. One of my favorite parts about my First Leaf subscription is how easy it is to control my delivery schedule. I get to choose when my wine ships, so I always have bottles on hand for hosting friends and holiday gatherings. I've received so many great bottles of wine from First Leaf, and so have my friends over the holiday season. One of the things that I love about First Leaf, if I get a bottle I don't absolutely love, it's not a problem because First Leaf has 100% satisfaction guarantee. So go ahead and treat yourself with wines from First Leaf. Go to tryfirstleaf.com/ratchet to sign up, and you'll get your first 6 hand-picked bottles for just $44.95. That's tryfirstleaf.com/ratchet. Tryfirstleaf.com/ratchet. Meal kits often market themselves as the easy meal prep solution, but often disappoint with complicated, overlong recipes that aren't worth the effort. Fortunately, Home Chef knows that struggle and delivers fresh, delicious meal kits that respect your time. Home Chef delivers fresh ingredients and chef-designed recipes conveniently to your doorstep to simplify your cooking experience. Users of leading meal kits have rated Home Chef #1 in quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. Whether you prefer classic meal kits with pre-portioned ingredients, quick 30-minute recipes, oven-ready options, microwave meals, or a dedicated family menu, Home Chef has everything you and your family need for hassle-free, delicious dinners. What I love about Home Chef, they have over 30 options a week and serve a variety of dietary needs. So there's something for everyone in your family. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 18 free meals, plus free dessert for life, and of course, free shipping on your first box. Go to homechef.com/ratchet. That's homechef.com/ratchet for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. homechef.com/ratchet. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
Hey Atlanta, Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
Last but not least, and this is also related to King, I saw earlier today, the family of Martin Luther King is responding to an order by the new president to declassify the remaining records. I'm going to go ahead and guess this is the FBI, pertaining to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert F. Kennedy, and their father, MLK. And they wrote, I swear Bernice wrote this, literally, it's a repost from Bernice King. It says, quote, "For us, the assassination of our father is a deeply personal family loss that we have endured over the last 56 years. We hope to be provided the opportunity to review the files as a family prior to its public release." She also adds that the King family is not taking any interviews as they await further information. So the FBI files for King come up in this book, and for King and for JFK and RFK, because he worked very closely with them eventually, because they weren't on board at first, about legislation for civil rights and then voting rights. The FBI under Hoover was investigating all three of them for various reasons. Hoover was convinced, with absolutely no evidence, that Martin Luther King was a communist because one of his close advisors, a white guy, had communist ties at one point in his life. He had since distanced himself from the communists by the time he was in Martin Luther King's orbit. Yet and still, with literally, as the author points out multiple times, like there was literally no evidence whatsoever that King was a communist, to the point that people who worked for the FBI would send first draft memos to Hoover and be like, "Hey, so I know you want to find something, but there's literally nothing there. We found a bunch of other stuff, but there's no evidence of communism." And Hoover was like, "That's impossible. There must be." But he was convinced first that Martin Luther King was a communist, and then also Martin Luther King had made unfavorable commentary about the FBI, basically like not doing enough, especially during the height of the protest. And Hoover took it personally. So he has this vendetta against Martin Luther King. The book doesn't go into detail about what exactly he has against JFK and Bobby Kennedy, because the book ain't about them. But the author does mention, and more than once, that both Kennedys have a sour relationship with Hoover, and that also Hoover has threatened them on multiple occasions, saying that he has information about them. And he said just enough to indicate that he knows a lot about their, what's the word I want to use, dalliances with women. But the part pertaining to King, it comes up in the book. There is an alleged audio tape recorded by the FBI of Martin Luther King visiting the Willard Hotel in D.C., January 5th, 1964. King goes to this hotel. He's with a bunch of people. One of them is a pastor from Baltimore. What is on these tapes was deemed so inflammatory, and I don't know when this was. I think this might have been in the 70s, that a judge ruled, like there's literally a court order about this, that they cannot be released until 2027. The author, doing his research, found a report characterizing the recording. And it says that the Baltimore pastor came to D.C. and he brought with him several women who are parishioners of his church. And he invited King to come meet the women. And they met in King's room, the two men and the women that had been brought from Baltimore. I was like, are these parishioners or prostitutes? I'm unclear. But they met with these women, and I'm going to just read you what it says. The group met in his room and discussed which women among the parishioners, that's why I was like, parishioners, prostitutes, okay, would be suitable for natural and unnatural sex acts. I'm quoting from whatever this summary was. Natural and unnatural sex acts. I was like, we talking anal? We talking head? What is considered unnatural here? I'm also trying to think what was considered unnatural in the 60s. Like, was doggy style unnatural? I don't know. It says one of the women protested that she did not approve of this, and the Baptist minister immediately and forcibly raped her. Again, this is what's in this summary document. Still, same report. It says the next night, King and about a dozen other people participated in a sex orgy involving consumption of alcohol, the vilest language imaginable, and acts of degeneracy and depravity. The author, he went and did his own interviews based on this report and the knowledge of these tapes that may or may not be released until 2027, the ones that apparently the new president is trying to release now. He talked to someone in the Justice Department that said the report sounds quote and unquote questionable. This guy said that he has listened to some of the FBI tapes of King, including this portion from the Willard Hotel. He says the voices of the recordings were difficult to discern, especially when there were large numbers of people in the room. He says the reports from the Willard Hotel do not include transcriptions, only summaries made by agents. He says it will be difficult to draw conclusions, at least until the tapes or transcripts are released. There is another report. This one is from 1977. This is somebody who also listened to the tapes, not somebody who's basing their information on a previous report. They said in this 1977 report that there is no mention of an orgy or alleged rape. This tape and the accusations of what's on this tape have been something that's been circulating for a really long time. The FBI did record King saying, perhaps doing, unfavorable things that left King rattled. Do you remember in the movie, King doesn't attend the first march in Selma over the bridge, the one where John Lewis got his head cracked? In the movie, it's attributed to the FBI sending Coretta Scott King a tape of King having sex with other women. The FBI was tapping King, and they were taping him during some of his private, intimate moments. I said earlier in the podcast, he seemingly had a different woman in every city. And even if he wasn't with a woman in a particular city, he was picking up the phone and he was calling some of his women and having varying conversations with them. And the FBI recorded those conversations and at one point made the equivalent of a mixtape and then sent it to King. And then also sent it around to other journalists. The journalists at the time decided not to publish the tapes. Publications at the time were just like, this is indecent. And like, you know, all married men have sex with people that aren't their wives. Like, why are we publishing this? And if we publish it about King, then we'd have to publish it about a bunch of other people. And that just like ruins everything. So no. So the existence of this mixtape, essentially, Martin Luther King absolutely did have a copy. He spoke to it about other people in his circle. He was worried about it. He was stressed out about it when he was receiving the Nobel Prize, which was all around the same time. So there's multiple mixtapes of Martin Luther King saying and perhaps doing ungood things. I think that this is the kind of content that the new administration is trying to release on Martin Luther King. I'm still reading on page 355 of this book. It says, over a span of 17 months, this is according to a high-up person in the FBI, essentially Hoover's number two. It says, the FBI made recordings of King in 15 hotel rooms, and Hoover listened to all of them. I'm reading here on page 357. Remember I said earlier that MLK had anxiety to the point that he developed hiccups that he couldn't control? Around the time that these tapes were made known to him is around the time that the hiccups developed. We'll discuss more of this if these tapes are released. I imagine the current administration wants to release them for the same reasons that we spoke about when we first started talking about King in this episode. King is perceived as a good leader and a man of upstanding morals, despite some information that might have come into the public zeitgeist over the last maybe decade or so. But he's still well perceived as an upstanding man, as a moral man, as a decent man. And I think same thing for JFK, Bobby Kennedy. All three of them would be considered liberal. I think the current administration wants to tell the dirtier side of them habits, behavior, thoughts, conversation in order to make 47 convictions, 34 felonies, and especially the being found liable for sexual abuse. I think the idea is to present people that are held up as quote and unquote good is to sully them. And so what he's done and probably will do, probably more information is about to come out. Releasing these tapes strikes me as a preemptive move to block something else. I think it's so his behavior doesn't look as bad. So they can point to say that like, well, okay, he did this, but, Martin Luther King is having alleged orgies, or, he's sitting in the room while a woman is raped, or here's the disgusting way that these men spoke of women. So, don't hold them up as your icon. What they said is by far worse than the head of the sitting administration. So, pipe down about the stuff that he does. I think that that's probably the strategy. We'll see. That's the episode. We'll be back on Tuesday. Talk soon. Bye. The conversations we have on this show really get me thinking. And when I want to dive deeper or level up, I want to hear from the best. Luckily, I can do just that with Masterclass. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. Masterclass is the only streaming platform where you can learn and grow with over 200 of the world's best. For just $10 a month, an annual membership with Masterclass gets you unlimited access to every instructor. And you can access Masterclass on your phone, computer, smart TV, or even audio mode. Use improv to overcome your fears with Amy Poehler, or turn your passion into achievements with cultural icon Martha Stewart. And the classes really make a difference. 88% of members feel that Masterclass has made a positive impact on their life. I watched the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix, and I just wanted more and more Martha Stewart. Masterclass had me covered. Martha's Masterclass will teach you how to think outside the box and level up. I loved it. Masterclass is offering an exclusive offer for Ratchet and Respectable listeners at masterclass.com/ratchet. Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/ratchet. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/ratchet. Masterclass.com/ratchet.